Hello everyone, tuned into the Lance channels. Final whistle here in Bragança Paulista at the Cícero de Souza Marques Stadium. São Paulo 1, Atlético Paranaense 2. Tricolor returned to the Brazilian Championship with a loss, and Dorival Jr. also made his return this season with a defeat. So, after a little over a month of preparation of a break during the World Cup, São Paulo had time to prepare both physically and technically. And they returned with a defeat here in Bragança Paulista. Guys, just a reminder that São Paulo is playing this match here today because Morumbi is closed for the singer Harry Styles concert, okay? So, talking about the game now, São Paulo surprised everyone with a very good start in the first half. São Paulo did really well in the first half. Yeah, they created chances, mainly down the flanks, with Arthur on the right side and the left back Wendell playing a more attacking role down the left. That's because Dorival Jr. put out a formation not with two wingers, as was expected with Ferreirinha and Arthur. That only happened in the second half. Yeah, before that he started with a midfield made up of Pablo Maia, Bobadilla, Luciano, who played as an attacking midfielder, sometimes a bit further forward, sometimes a bit more in the middle, and Marcos Antonio. So, before we actually talk about São Paulo's goal, the goal that opened the scoring in the first half, it's worth highlighting Marcos Antonio's performance. What a player Marcos Antonio is. Despite the loss, you could already feel how important São Paulo's number 8 is, how fundamental the number 8 is to help Dorival Jr.'s team maybe reach its full potential. Did they reach their full potential today? I don't think so. I think in the first half, as I said, they played a great match, deserved to go into halftime winning the game, and a lot of that was because of Marcos Antonio. We can't say São Paulo played an amazing match or performed at their best, especially since the second half was different, which we'll discuss soon. But São Paulo's first half was good, with those plays down the flanks, applying very interesting counter-pressing. The team was physically well, played with intensity, and managed to dominate Atlético Paranaense, who barely threatened Rafael's goal. They didn't even get a single shot on target. Yeah. So the São Paulo goalkeeper really didn't have to work, didn't even get his uniform dirty. The only real dangerous chance was a cross into the box that fell to number 21 Leo Leozinho, who in the second half did give São Paulo some trouble. He connected with a cross that went right across the goal area but didn't go in. It didn't really scare the São Paulo team. And after this well-played first half, it felt like the second half would continue the same way, but that's not what happened. About the goal, there's not much to say about the technical or tactical side because it was from a free kick. It came from a good passing move in midfield. Caleri was a player who didn't stay completely in the center during the first half. He moved a lot to the left side, exactly to try to create some 1-2s to link up there. Both with Marcos Antonio, who, moved all over São Paulo's midfield, and also with Wendell on the left wing. And in a play where he moved to the left side, he was fouled. And after a good free kick by Arthur, he also had a bit of luck because goalkeeper Santos didn't do well. He even touched the ball, but it still went in. So, the feeling that remained, as I was saying, going into halftime was that São Paulo didn't need to change much in their style of play. They just needed to keep doing what they were already doing in the first half because they were dominating the main area, which is the midfield, and had a solid defense. That defense was formed by Arboleda, who was booed here when his name was announced on the big screen, right? When the lineup was released. But later, during the game, the fans apparently embraced the defender. They even applauded some plays where he cleared the ball or went in hard on tackles. The São Paulo fan didn't really give the Ecuadorian defender a hard time as he returned to play after all the controversy that, as a São Paulo fan, you already know happened during this break and even a little before the World Cup. And Rafael Toloi was the other defender, who once again ended up getting injured. I'll talk about that at the end. Then Luis Osorio comes in. And already talking about the second half, the young São Paulo defenders unfortunately ended up being involved negatively in the play that led to the first goal. Yes, São Paulo's team returns very differently for the second half, but there's barely time to notice the change since I think it happens because of the goals they concede. Atlético Paranaense scored their first goal right behind me on the left after a very quick counter-attack by the Paraná team. And number 9, Viveros, a strong, fast player, broke through on the left, sent a low cross, and Leozinho finished it in an unbelievable sequence. He slides in and hits the post. São Paulo's fans feel relieved with the play, with the missed goal by Atlético Paranaense, but right after that, in the continuation of the play, there's a cross into the box, a header in a challenge with the defenders. from São Paulo against Atlético Paranaense's defense, and the ball ends up on the other side of the box for Leozinho. At that moment, if you watch the replay, you can see that Luis Osorio, who came on for Rafael Toloi, just watches the ball go by. He ends up not trying to intervene with a header or get close. He doesn't even notice there's an Atlético Paranaense player behind him, and Leozinho, the ball falls at his feet. He just needs to tap it into the goal and score. So, given that brief individual mistake that happened there, 3 minutes into the first half, a minute and a half into the second half, it was expected that São Paulo would wake up and say, no, let's go back to doing what we were doing in the first half, but that's not what happened. The team started to feel the ball burning at their feet, a bit more nervous when finishing plays, and couldn't really apply the same counter press as in the first half. And what happened was that Atlético Paranaense started to control the game. They became faster. In the transitions, every time São Paulo pushed forward, Atlético Paranaense responded with a very fast counter-attack, and with that, they gained ground, gained space, and created more chances to finish. And from a corner kick, after a play down the end line that resulted in the corner, Atlético Paranaense took the kick, and on the rebound, that's when São Paulo made their second individual marking mistake. Because Leozinho was alone, right at the edge of the penalty area. From there, he hits a low shot across goal, and Rafael just watches the ball go by. He couldn't do much since the ball was fast and many people blocked his view. I think it was more São Paulo's marking mistake, and then Atlético Paranaense turned the game around. When the game shifted, São Paulo stopped creating. As I said, they got nervous. The ball was like a hot potato at their feet, and they couldn't build up the same way. Marcos Antonio himself, who had a great first half, couldn't keep up the same level of performance in the second half. And then, unfortunately, São Paulo loses this match here in Bragança Paulista. In the second half, Vitor Sá made his debut. He made some other changes, like bringing in Ferreira, for example, to play with two wingers, but the individual plays didn't work. São Paulo could have even conceded a third goal. There was controversy over a possible penalty on Viveiros here, which the referee didn't call, and São Paulo ended up not being able to keep up the same pace. This serves as a warning for Dorival Jr. after this defeat, after the final whistle, though there is still a glimmer of hope from the first half, but the coach needs to understand what caused the team's blackout in the second half. So, the answer is, it's going to be hard for us to have that against Flamengo because it's a different kind of game, a different kind of opponent, where it will be hard for São Paulo to impose themselves like they did here in the first half. It's probably going to be a game where São Paulo will have less possession and will try to counterattack more. So, there's a good chance we'll see, for example, Vitor Sá making his first start, or São Paulo having a slightly more mobile, slightly faster attack than they had today. Yeah, so let's see how São Paulo will perform against Flamengo. It's a loss that naturally shouldn't carry the same weight as this one. It's a tough game at Maracanã, so that makes today's result even heavier. Because if they had won the previous game, today's match against Flamengo would have less pressure, it would be less of a necessity for São Paulo. Because if they lose, they can already be overtaken by teams behind them, and if they lose to Flamengo, they'll be even further from a Libertadores spot, right? So to follow the other details and the post-game reactions for São Paulo, stay tuned on Lance's social media and on lance.com.br. I'll stop here, bye-bye, and see you next time.